they are irrelevant. Gentlemen, this is a test. Moments such as
And that's what it would be like if we had a dictator ruling over us.
Into everything we believe, everything that we have fought for. Doubt will plunge this country back into chaos, and I will not let that happen.
Hey, what's up? This is Darkest Scorpio. Thanks for tuning to my channel. Hit the notifications. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I mean, if you want to. I ain't making you. But anyways, today, I'm just going to talk about something real simple, easy, nothing controversial. Sorry, it's going to be boring. It won't get any views, but this is for my own pleasure. We're going to talk about my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Top 5 favorite movies of all time. So before I get into the top 5 favorite movies of all time, and I'll explain them a little bit and why they're my favorites, and explain the characters in those movies. Had pretty good caffeine today, obviously, or maybe just good rest. I don't know. But anyways, we're going to get into a few other movies that are my favorites before I get to the top 5 favorites. And some of you guys probably will like some of these movies before getting into the list of the top 5. So this would be like 10 through 20. We're going to say Scarface. Classic. Great movie. One of the great movies of all time. Real quick, and I'll let you get right back to the video. One I forgot, Tombstone. With Doc Holliday being one of my favorite characters of all time. Man, I mean, come on. He's just a fucking trendsetter. Anyways, back to the video. Al Pacino is one of my favorite actors of all time. We'll talk about him in a little bit. He's going to be at the top of the list. But, yeah, Al Pacino, one of my favorite actors of all time. Great movie. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. The world is yours, Chico, and everything in it. All right, and then we're going to talk about Paid in Full. It's another more of a street urban movie. Really like it. I got a lot of favorite movies in that genre, like Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, a few others, you know, but they're in that same genre, so I'm not going to list all those. Now we're getting into the dark stuff. Underworld, because I love vampire movies. I love a lot of vampire movies, so I'm not going to name all of them because it would be too many. It would be too many to name. So, because I like Dracula, I like Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's Wes Craven's Dracula. There's so many different versions of Dracula. So, we'll stick with Underworld, and then we will go to Dracula Untold. Because I just really like that storyline of Dracula himself before he was a vampire. So, Underworld, Dracula Untold, Queen of the Damned. Very good. A lot of these movies aged pretty well. Queen of the Damned, you can definitely tell the time era because of the Korn music and just the way the people look. And the same thing with one of these movies that are going to be at the top of the list that I'm going to mention here in a minute. But even whether they age well or don't age well, they're just some of my favorites. Dark Knight. Because that Batman, I like all the Batman movies, especially the one with Jack Nicholson. But in my opinion, The Dark Knight has the most sinister, eccentric, I don't know, there's so many words I can put to Heath Ledger as being like one of my all-time favorite anarchists of all time. Just true to anarchy. But love his character. He's really just amazing. He's, in my opinion, hands down the best Joker of all time, and I love his character. I love the character of Joker, even though it's sadistic and dark and mad. I like that. So I like a lot of bad guys, or bad guys that have good in them, a mixture of good and bad. I like those characters mainly, the majority of them, but you know, mostly I do like some good guys. But Wolverine would have to be the only probably good guy, because I like Vegeta and Magneto and all these other characters. But we'll get into that in a minute. Scream. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The first one's classic. And I do like Michael Myers. X-Men. So there we go. We were talking about that. Magneto and Wolverine being my favorite characters in the Marvel genre. And then X-Men. So definitely X-Men. Zorro. Just all-time favorite of just somebody who's fighting for a cause and to help the oppressed. Terminator, especially Terminator 2. Braveheart. Another revolutionary guy. Love that. And Troy. Achilles was badass. So, but anyways, there's a little clue to what my favorite one is going to be. So, we're going to get into the top 5 of all time. First one, and we're going all the way down to 1, so it's going from 5 to 1 because we already picked off all those top ones. And I want to say that I do like Star Wars and Harry Potter and DC and Marvel. I like those movies, but I have so many favorites that they would have to be in order, and all these would definitely be at the top. And I guess, you know, after the list I just mentioned in a higher order, it would be like Harry Potter and X-Men and all those other ones. I already said X-Men, but Star Wars. So SLC Punk. I remember watching it as a kid. I was always drawn to that movie. Rather, I was in my punk phase, like my rock phase, or my metal phase, or when I ventured off into the more street phase. That had always been one of my favorite movies of all time. It definitely impacted me as a youngster and liking the whole concept of the movie. And yeah, it being a little bit juvenile and adolescent, along with the next movie I'm gonna name, because all the higher ones are gonna be, or the ones closer to 1 are gonna be more serious movies, more adolescent, juvenile, especially with the whole just juvenile look of the world and wanting to fight the power, fight the authority, be rebellious. It's a juvenile way of thinking of being rebellious. We kind of all grow out of that eventually, but it still touches a young part of me, still that young part that wants to be rebellious, and that's always going to be there. So SLC Punk, about the punk rock culture, one of my favorite movies of all time. Then we're going to talk about Lost Boys. Another juvenile. It's got a young feel, adolescent feel to the movie, even though it's sprinkled in with some dark horror and the vampirism, that being in the movie. I just like the 80s, like the look of, you know, the characters. It was just a really fucking cool, hip for its time movie. It probably has aged, and you can tell, just like the 2000s with the Queen of the Damned. That definitely looks like 2000s with like Limp Bizkit, Korn type of music. So same thing with the 80s, you know, with the 80s metal and rock, with the whole look and everything like that. But still, it's a movie from my childhood. I was born in the 80s, and it's always going to be a favorite movie of mine. It was my mom's favorite movie. I think that's why I hold it close to me. And yeah, so now we're going to get into the more serious, profound movies that really have touched me. We're going to talk about A Few Good Men. Very badass movie. I'm not a military person. I'm not, you know, patriarch by any means. But I like the movie. It's a good movie. It's just badass all the way around. So I don't want to talk too much about each and every movie because it's going to be too long. It has very good actors in it. Jack Nicholson, Cuba Jr. I probably didn't pronounce that right. There's a lot of other stars in that movie. Kiefer Sutherland was also in that movie. Yeah, Keith Sutherland, also from David from Lost Boys, is also in Few Good Men. Didn't even think about that. Now, we're getting into number 2. So, number 5, SOC Punk. Number 4, Lost Boys. Number 3, Few Good Men. Number 2, The Scent of a Woman. With Al Pacino. Al Pacino, one of my favorite actors of all time, completely embodies the whole narrative of a broken man, somebody who's very damaged, somebody who's got a broken soul, just broken individual, very unhealthy individual, and I can definitely relate to that individual. From a lot of my life, and I love the movie, but yet it has a positive story and a positive end story of the end scenes. So just amazing. It's a fucking classic. It should have had Oscars. If it did, it probably did. If not, it should have. But yeah, The Scent of a Woman, my number 2 of all time. It's just an amazing movie with Al Pacino. And number 1 on this list is V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta. V being the all-time greatest anarchist of all time. I mean, he's right up there with Heath Ledger as a Joker. He's just not as sinister or psychotic, but he's a troubled individual. He just wants to... He has a vendetta, you know, because of what was done to him. Kind of like Al Pacino with Scarface. Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman, he has a vendetta. He was really wronged in his life, and he's lashing out and just living in an unhealthy way. Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. Well, V for Vendetta, having his vendetta against the government, what they did to him, and that's a very more serious topic when you're going against the government. You want to, you know, just fight the power and fight for injustice and fight for the oppressed. And that's what the character stands for to me, and the whole movie, the concept. Also, it being, what's the way to put it? It really captures, I want to say, encapsulates like a true, dark, mysterious romance. That you don't see in a lot of other movies, because usually romance movies are real cheesy and corny, or they're just, you know, love you forever, whatever, blah, 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 happy ever ending. But or they just show the drama about, you know, love. But this being a whole different thing, with just a dark, mysterious, in love with the type of individual, and you can't really be with them, and then you love a cause more, and it, you know, it's just amazing. So those, I could talk on and on about this, just like I could talk about music or other things that I'm interested in. Love these movies. They're the greatest of all time. That's my opinion. Y'all let me know what you think about these movies. Comment below, like this video, comment and tell me what are some of y'all's favorite movies of all time. And if you agree with me on some of these movies. But that's just my opinion. Y'all, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. I'm out. Y'all have a good night. Stay tuned.